Visibility for your podcast is great, but it only really matters when it leads to something deeper. Today, I want to share how you can use YouTube with intention so that you can not only grow your podcast audience on YouTube, but you can also see results with your business by booking more clients, by getting more leads, growing your email list, or even selling some of your products. I'm Yesenia, your video podcast and content creation coach, and this is Creative Made, a place where we talk about how you can build your content in a way that is authentic, strategic, and sustainable for you. If you're here, it's because you want your podcast to do more than just simply exist in the internet. You want it to work for you, to bring you opportunities like clients, speaking and engagements. And as far as YouTube goes, it definitely can help do that, but only if you use it with intention. And if you know who you're speaking to, you know what is the mission of your content, and you know what is the problem that you're helping solve with your content. So why visibility, and why visibility needs purpose? I've heard many times over and over, I wish I can go viral on YouTube, or I wish my content could go viral. Would you imagine that? What would it look like? What would it be? Oh, how cool. Sure, if you're looking for the vanity metrics, yes, going viral and seeing that growth almost quote unquote instantaneously, yes, that is great, fun, but is it what you really need? Do you need to go viral? Does your content need to go viral? Or does it need to reach the right amount of people that are ready and actually looking for somebody to help them solve a problem? And that's where, when you look at your YouTube strategy and your overall business strategy, you don't want to just go for these big numbers. Yeah, that could be a really good goal. But if the goals are these big numbers, this huge growth, audience growth, what is it that you want to obtain with that as a result of having that growth? So really, visibility without a clear purpose actually tends to lead to burnout and not really bring you any breakthrough. But when you're intentional, when your content, your keywords, your calls to action are all aligned with your offers, everything starts to shift. The right people will find you, they'll start binging on your content, and eventually they will end up buying from you. So I want to talk to you today about how YouTube can fit into your ecosystem and how to build content that serves your community and your bottom line. In 2024, YouTube became the second largest lead source in my business, or for my business, and the third one in conversion. The majority of my business comes from recurring clients that are retainer clients, and a lot of those other new clients are coming from referrals from those retainer clients, which is really great. Referrals and word of mouth has been time and time again one of the best, if not the best way to get new clients. Now, with having YouTube, having a podcast, in my case as a business, YouTube has served as a way for people to discover my content. I've seen growth on my Instagram account. I've seen growth of my YouTube account. So I'm mentioning these two because these are the two that I'm most active. And if you follow me for a while, you will see that I'm not really super active on Instagram. I'm more active on one of my YouTube channels, my Spanish YouTube channel, Bloom Creativo, where I've created more content on a weekly basis. I've even been live there. And it wasn't until April of 2025 that I decided to create this brand new channel for Creative Made Podcast, where I'm doing a variety of things with this podcast, but I'll tell you later on about that, later on in a different episode, my strategy with this channel. But I really want to talk to you about the reason of how you can fit YouTube as part of your ecosystem and make it work for you without even having to be in the YouTube partnership program. That could very well be one of your goals, but it should not be the only one or the goal. You want to make sure that your content on YouTube, on your podcast, is aligned with your business and your offers. As an entrepreneur, you need to think like an entrepreneur whenever you're creating content, so that it's not just pushing out content for the sake of it. So you know that each piece of content that you're pushing out is tied directly to another of your offerings, or maybe it's tied to a lead magnet that is going to help you grow your newsletter so that later on in the year you can run a campaign with your warm audience and then possibly get new clients and have them purchase your courses, your memberships, or join a paid newsletter or a paid membership, for example. And this brings me to YouTube's role in a funnel. There are different phases of a funnel, but I'm just going to divide only or simplify it into 3 phases. First of all, remember that YouTube is a search engine, and that means that people are actively looking for solutions, and your podcast could very well be that solution. So a simplified funnel will look like you have the discovery, and in YouTube terms, that translates to the title and the thumbnail. That is what's going to get them to click. Imagine going to the movies and you have no access to YouTube, no access to anything that will give you a sense of what that film is about. You only know, or your only best guess is based on the title of the movie and the poster, the film poster. And based on that, you're going to decide, okay, I'm going to go to this movie because this poster looks fun and looks interesting or looks mysterious and whatever it is. So think of it like that. That title and thumbnail is the first thing that people will see whenever the algorithm feeds them your content. Then is the trust. And in terms of YouTube, that translates into retention. That means keeping people watching past the 30 seconds, past 1 minute, the longest amount of time possible so that you have a larger percentage of a watch time for your content. All of this is going to be signaling to the YouTube algorithm, hey, this content is interesting, let's keep pushing it. And people who are looking for similar content have a higher chance of being able to see your content because you're working in favor of the YouTube algorithm. Because the YouTube algorithm not only works via search engine, it also works via recommendations. So if you've ever looked at how to grow tomatoes at some point, then out of a sudden you start seeing other things related to growing tomatoes or growing plants or your vegetable gardens. That is part of that recommendation algorithm because it's thinking that or deducting that you are interested in that type of topic. So let's work in favor of the algorithm for your content, but also no clickbait, please. Let's be very true to the content, because also if you end up creating clickbait content, that's going to hurt you in the long run. And then the next is conversion. And in terms of YouTube, that means call to action. This is where you move them to the next step. That next step could be an email list. It could be a workshop. It could be booking a coaching session, a strategy session with you. It could be purchasing a product, downloading a freebie, joining your newsletter. If any of these parts are missing, then you're leaving opportunity on the table. Now, I realize that moving from audio to video can seem a little bit daunting. There is definitely a little bit of a higher curve for production, or even more so starting out from scratch with a video podcast might have a slightly higher curve. However, you can still be on YouTube and be very strategic with how you use YouTube for your podcast and still be able to incorporate video aspects to your production little by little. I get it. You don't want to spend a whole lot of time on YouTube. Maybe you don't have the time to do that. So you want to find the minimal viable video option for your podcast on YouTube. So let's start with static image plus audio. This is the simplest and a great way to get started, to get your foot inside YouTube, your content inside the YouTube platform, to get started with familiarizing yourself with the YouTube studio, to familiarizing yourself with how the algorithm works and getting that data. And in this case, what you'll need to do is the simplest way would be to connect your RSS feed from your podcast host onto your YouTube channel. This way, once you publish an episode, and you upload that to your podcast host, let's say Spotify for podcasters, then once that episode airs, it is going to be fed onto your YouTube channel automatically. So your title, your description, everything that you write in that podcast hosting platform is going to be moved and sent to your YouTube channel. You can always go back to the YouTube channel once the episode is published and optimize it. Optimize the titles, optimize the thumbnail, optimize the description so that it is better formatted for YouTube, and see how that translates into views and watch time and potential YouTube subscribers. The next one is the more common one, and that is a talking head video, similar to what I'm doing right now. You're going to record your video. You can use your phone, you can use a webcam, you can use a DSLR mirrorless camera. Many options are available nowadays that also produce really high quality content. And you can introduce the episode or talk directly to the camera about a topic and then plug in your offer. And there are multiple ways in which you can do that. They're called pre-roll, mid-roll, or post-roll ads. These are ads that you will put pre-roll. This is right before the start of the episode. Mid-roll, usually in the middle, and post-roll at the end. They all have their pros and cons. Typically, the mid-roll has a little bit higher percentage for conversion. I can't remember the percentage. I remember seeing this a while back, but it can also be slightly disruptive. So you want to be very cautious on how you present these ads within your content. And the other portion, or the other way in which you can go the minimal viable video for podcasters, is creating YouTube Shorts. Maybe you set up your camera, your video, you record your episode, and the full episode is available on audio only. And then you just upload YouTube Shorts to your YouTube channel, and then you repurpose those into Instagram Reels or TikToks. And that is another way in which you can include video as part of your podcast production process. Now, I know that the talking head video is a little bit more cumbersome because you are already creating the longer format, and now you're thinking, well, editing. I think this is where having the right tools to help you produce your content is very essential. One of the tools that I've been using for almost 5 years now, since I started creating video content or video podcasts, is Riverside. And Riverside is a wonderful platform that will allow you to record your episodes, high quality episodes, including if you have multiple guests that are in a different place, that are remote. They're continuously doing lots of updates. And one of my favorite features is having the made for you section, where automatically via AI, they create a set of YouTube vertical formats and show notes and things that you can use to easily repurpose your content, so that you can reshare that, whether it's on an email or a social media post or a newsletter. However you want to reshare and repurpose your content to maximize the impact that you can have with your content. So check out my affiliate link to Riverside in the description. And when you sign up for Riverside, make sure to use the code Bloom15 to get a 15% discount on your subscription. Regardless of the strategy that you choose to go for, even if you are creating content in audio exclusively, it's always very important to have a call to action. This call to action is going to help you with discoverability potential, especially on YouTube if you have it paired with your long form content. Another really good thing about YouTube Shorts is that you can connect your YouTube Shorts to the longer version of that short. That's another way that you can keep people engaged within your content and then grow that potential watch time. Now, very important to mention that the watch time for YouTube Shorts and the watch time for your longer form content is counted different when it comes to the watch time requirements to monetize your YouTube channel. So that's very important, so that if you're interested in monetizing your content, be mindful of how you're using your YouTube Shorts strategy for your monetization goals. And whether you have an audio only podcast or you have some sort of video component, it's always important to have a call to action, a CTA, because this is what's going to help them go to the next step. And speaking of the next step, let's talk about SEO and stories that sell. Your title should not just be episode 42, my thoughts on productivity. That really doesn't tell anything what they're getting. Remember, you are asking for people's time, and people are, as a user, are expecting something in return. What am me as a user, think of it. Ask yourself as a user, what are you going to get in exchange for your time in watching that video? Are you going to be entertained, educated, informed, or a mix of that? So if, let's say the example is you're talking about productivity, instead of my thoughts on productivity, try this instead. How to stay creative without burning out. A 3-step system for creators. Here, not only are you creating a content or a title that is searchable, benefit driven, and highly likely to convert, you're also including who is this for for creators. And you're even also adding a system. You're talking about a 3-step system. So that means that there is a structure to that, which ties very well with productivity, because when you think of productivity, you think about system and structure. And then the next thing is the description. Your description should include a 1 to 2 sentence summary with a clear benefit, a strong call to action, like for example, download my free visibility checklist here, or download my guide to simplifying your productivity in the mornings, anything like that. Or it could be access or sign up for the waitlist of your next product or your group program, whatever it is that you want people to take. Let that call to action be that next step that you want your audience to take within the journey of working with you. Another thing that you can do to further optimize your YouTube descriptions is to having timestamps or chapters. This is really helpful because not only are you dividing the episode into smaller chunks, the titles, whatever title you assign to that particular chapter or timestamp, is also searchable. So be sure to include some of those important keywords somewhere within those chapters. So don't just say point 1, point 2, point 3, or step 1, 2, and 3. Make sure you give them a name or title that uses some of your essential keywords for your content. And finally, and you've probably already heard it many times, and if you haven't, now you will, do not sleep on your thumbnails. Make sure that your thumbnails have a clean text, easy to read text that is not just visible on a computer, but also visible on a mobile, because most of us are scrolling on our mobiles a lot of times during our days. So make sure that that text is legible. Make sure that you have a human element for your podcast, especially if you are trying to build a personal brand with your content in your podcast, and something that just sparks curiosity. Another bonus tip, is actually something that I need to start updating, is adding a pinned comment with your offer, or with a question, or with another next step in your video, in your episode. So remember, people do scroll sometimes. If there's a really juicy conversation, people go straight to the comments to see what other people are talking about. So this is a really great opportunity to capitalize on that space that you have in the comment section. Now, as you're moving forward with your YouTube and video podcast strategy, what should you measure? What do you use to determine if something is successful or not on YouTube? Well, unfortunately, YouTube and the traditional podcast hosting platforms don't really measure data in the same way. And this is an issue that was brought up earlier during Podcast Movement Evolution, the conference earlier this year, where I had the chance to speak. I spoke about YouTube and YouTube strategies. While they're not the same, here are a couple of metrics that could definitely help you get a better sense of how your content is producing or resulting on YouTube. First of all, forget about subscriber count. Yes, that's great. And if you're wanting to get monetized, you will need to look at that number later on. But let's focus first on your CTR. That is your click-through rate. This is where you'll know if people are clicking on your episodes because of the title and the thumbnail that you've written, or that you've designed for your episodes. You want to aim at least 4 or 6%. Then you have audience retention. This is watch time pretty much. Are they staying past the first 30 seconds? If they drop off early, you may want to rework your hooks, your openings for your episodes, and you want to aim for like a 50 to 60%. And the next one is link clicks. In your description or your pinned comment, are people moving to your website, your calendar, or freebie? This is a little bit harder to track because you want to make sure, you want to also look at your Google Analytics. Where is your traffic coming from on your website? Is it coming from YouTube? Is it coming from social media, etc.? So make sure that you have a way for people to further connect with you past seeing a video or listening to an episode on YouTube, but also, pro tip here, if you're offering a discovery call or if you have a contact form on your website, make sure to include a section where you're asking that person, how did they hear about you? And you include YouTube as an option. If you don't have it, if you do have these discovery calls, make sure you ask them to see how they found out about you. So what can you do this week to start optimizing your YouTube channel? The first thing that I'll recommend is go to your YouTube studio and then check your analytics for the past 28 days or the past 90 days and see What was your top performing episode? If that episode is very well aligned with what your business is looking for and the goals for your business, make sure that you're optimizing that episode. Check the title, check the descriptions, the calls to action, and the thumbnail. And then later on, compare maybe later in a week, later in a month, and see how after doing that optimization, if there has been any change, whether it could be more views, whether it could be more leads or more products, anything that resulted from adding that call to action to that video. You don't need to go viral on YouTube. You just need visibility that aligns with your business. If this episode resonated with you and you want to dive deeper into your YouTube strategy for your podcast and you need a little bit more guidance, then I invite you to click the link in the description where you can book a free discovery call to learn more about my coaching strategies and my podcast audits. I'll see you on the next episode.